The story of Indiana's brewing industry is the topic of a new book by Bloomington-based author Douglas Wissing. It's entitled Indiana, One Pint at a Time, a traveler's guide to Indiana's breweries. And it's available now for checkout through the library's website and our online catalog, and of course at local bookstores. Doug, thank you for joining us on the program.
Well, thanks for joining me, John.
This is a great book, very colorful, full of great anecdotes and stories about current and past Indiana breweries. What about the history of Indiana beer making? It goes back to what, the early 19th century?
It goes back to about 1814, when this was still the frontier. And I think a lot of people may be familiar with the story of the Harmonists who came from Germany. And being good Germans, of course, they had to have a brewery. So back when Indiana was still a log cabin state, they built a pretty amazing little town down on the Wabash, and they built a brewery, which was one of the first breweries west of the Alleghenies, and they were really good brewers. They came from an area in Germany called Franconia, which is still one of the most heavily brewery places in the world, if that's a word, and their beer was really celebrated. They brewed enough for their own community and then had enough surplus that they sold beer all the way back up the Ohio to almost West Virginia and all the way down almost to the Mississippi. So we got off to a good start.
Good. And of course, the culture of beer making has continued through the 20th century. But in this current day, the crafting of beer kind of enjoyed a renaissance starting, what, in the late 80s or early 90s?
That's exactly right. We went through a period of pretty massive consolidation of breweries and that era of pretty bland lagers that dominated the palates of America. At the same time that was happening, there was this new movement of microbreweries that was emerging, bubbling up. And Indiana was no different. We started having these tiny breweries that prospered, and now we have almost 36 breweries in the state, more breweries than any time since Prohibition.
Wow, that's interesting. This had to be a labor of love. You say it took, what, about a year to put the book together. It's published by the Indiana Historical Society Press. This worked out well. Are you happy with the finished product?
Oh, it was a wonderful team of people. We had Dick Spar was the photographer on the team, and he did a great job with it. Dean Johnson Design, where they actually came up with the concept of the book. I had done some work on breweries in Belgium that are really famous for Trappist monasteries that make beer, and I had done a number of pieces on a particular brewery. It's a very tiny brewery, and it was ranked as the best beer in the world. Wow. Very remote place. You can only buy the beer there. And I found it fascinating because the year after I was there, it was ranked as the best beer in the world. And of course, thousands of people trooped to this tiny little monastery. The monks are there, and they're saying, "We're out. We're done. We're praying. Go away." And I love the concept of commerce and spirituality coming together. And so I wrote a bunch of pieces about this, and Mike Schwab, who's with Dean Johnson, saw these and had this concept for a book on Indiana brewing, and I just want to say that research was hell.
Oh, I'll bet. A lifetime of research, right? Well, the book, again, is entitled Indiana, One Pint at a Time, but it's subtitled A Traveler's Guide to Indiana's Breweries. So, indeed, it is a travel guide. It breaks down where these the crafting takes place in all sections of the state, correct?
That's right. There was a funny coincidence. The year after the Belgium brewery was ranked as the best beer in the world, just as I started work on this book, the best beer in the world was ranked as an Indiana brewery, Three Floyds up in Munster. And later they have been ranked as the best brewery in the world. And I think the thing that really struck me as I went around and met these 36 different brewers around the state is they all had won awards. Indiana's been winning world medals and whatnot for quite a while. We really are producing world-class beer in Indiana.
Us.
Yeah.
Basketball and beer.
Basketball and beer, there you are.
Well, the book is a fun read. It's so full of colorful photographs, but interesting anecdotes. You've interspersed a lot of great historical background. within the description of the breweries themselves. So there are a lot of different pieces to this book. And what's in the future for you now? This book is now out, but you've done a library talk on another topic of interest to you when you were embedded with troops in Afghanistan. That's coming out very soon, isn't it?
Well, the manuscript is due very soon.
Okay.
The book is scheduled to come out in 2011, which is a book on development in Afghanistan, and so it's the confluence between attempts to do development in a war zone, counterinsurgency and development.
Fascinating. Well, good luck with that. And again, this book, Indiana, One Pint at a Time, is available for checkout through the library's online catalog and available at local bookstores. And Douglas Wissing, thanks for joining us on Between the Lines.
Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.